Hello people, we're live and today we are using this brush, which is woodboard. So to anybody who is new to this, I decided that after releasing the Angry Mikko Oils brush set that I want to show how each brush works in practice, and rather than just quickly explain them like I have in the previous video that I released, I'm also going to do full paintings with them as I have during the development of this brush set. So right now I'm just going to use base builder like I use for almost all paintings. This is just to create that beautiful textured base to start from. I think the other color doesn't quite fit, so I'm gonna change the secondary color. Let's do some kind of like green blue mix here. So I'm going to be using a woodboard for the entire painting, and in the previous live stream I already showed how Sun Bear works, and I did that snowy landscape with that brush. Just as a sort of a mini announcement to anybody who has already bought these brushes, there was some discussion last time if people would be interested in me uploading all of the palettes that I am creating for these live streams to make the painting happen in this limited time frame. And it seemed like people were kind of okay with me adding new stuff to the brush set after the release, so I will be adding all of the palettes that are used in this. I should have worn a cap. Do I have a cap in this room? No. Let's just paint. Maybe I should like make this window a little bit smaller. Yeah, so nobody's like paying too much attention to my hair. Is this the window for... Okay. Maybe it's just, this allows me to squeeze in a little bit more of painting and less focus on my face. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. The ads like don't quite fit into the frame, but it's close enough, so I'm just going to start. For this palette, I want to start with kind of like cold blues, and rather than going into those sort of like juicy, vibrant greens like I usually do with my landscapes, I wanna see if I can do that feeling of sunlight in a relative way with a cooler base. And hopefully that will give me a little bit more hue range to move towards those sort of like warm tones. Maybe I should also try to do a bit more narrow, almost like movie aspect ratio. So I'm gonna go here and just squeeze this down a little bit. I'm gonna do a resample canvas, and for this I'm just gonna do 3600. It's still quite small, but I'm gonna do the sketch this way and then just blow it up to bigger. So with this, I really like the fact that some brushes have square profiles and some have round. Here, when I'm going to be painting clouds, I'm not going to be fighting against this like square blocky look of the brush. Instead, I'm going to acknowledge that it's going to be a part of the look of the whole painting. So some of the clouds are going to be blocky and have that sort of like more sculptural look to them. And I think this is good for like designing strong shape language when you sometimes push yourself to do this. I know that most, especially like beginners, usually want to create those sort of like realistic fluffy clouds. But sometimes it's good to challenge yourself a little bit. I think that is way too saturated for what I want. I'm just gonna try and find the right tone of blue somewhere. I think this is pretty close. Since none of these colors are like quite what I want for the sky, I am going to edit the palette before I add it there. And if you're watching this right now, the palettes are not yet added to the brush set, but if you're watching this, let's say 3 days from now, then I will have started adding them. And it's only going to be a few palettes in the beginning, but by the end of these live streams, there should be like a huge selection. Since to go through every single brush, there's going to be quite a few of these live streams. And it allows me to actually paint for once and just have fun with these, which is exactly what I need right now. To say that this year has been busy would be an understatement. Hello people in this chat, I see people waving. Also, it's Independence Day here in Finland. So after this, I'm going to be watching people do handshakes for multiple hours in a row. That is the TV show that everybody in Finland watches. Every year. It's the most watched TV show for the whole year, every year. So I'm just gonna use like very hard. I'm looking at the tiny thumbnail. I'm not even looking at my screen. I'm looking at the tiny thumbnail on OBS where I'm streaming this thing. Like I'm just looking at the biggest shapes that I am making right now. Not at all worrying. Like I'm literally just slapping this paint in here. A rough estimation. I don't want these two cumulus structures to be similar in shape, so that's what I'm thinking. So the one on the right, that is the wide one, this one is the wide one, this one is the tall one, and here we have kind of like a thin curved shape. And for the eraser, I'm also going to change that to wood board, because I'm not trying to sculpt away the blockiness of these clouds. I am trying to use that as part of the expression here in this painting. So if I have a 90-degree angle in a cloud, it doesn't matter. I will just focus on the color being correct. And color, a lot of people say that it's the value, but also the color, the exact hue that you are choosing, can do a lot of heavy lifting in these sort of situations. Just adding a little bit of hue variety with these almost greenish tones in the lower half of the cloud masses, slapping them in. Now that I have established the body of the cloud, I am working on a clipping mask. Then I am creating another clipping mask, and this is just building up more shadows to the cloud. Maybe now could be a good time to think about where I'm actually placing all of the lights. So I'm going to do another clipping mask. And I'm going to grab the lightest value here. To give myself a little bit of wiggle room, I'm going to pull it down just a tiny little bit. Because every single millimeter that it's further away from that top left corner, the more editing I can do with these clouds. I really like that. I think it's good to feel out the feeling of the space with direction of sunlight on cloud masses, and then when I get to the ground level, those sort of decisions are already made for me. I think it's still a little bit too saturated. So I'm pulling down the saturation to 40. See, like these sort of changes would be almost impossible to do even in the big color palette, because my hand doesn't do such tiny movements. But if anybody wants to use this palette, I'm gonna make it easier for you and replace this lightest swatch with the color that I am currently using to be as close to this as possible. I'm also going to change this color into the sky color that I have ended up with here. Set current color. And you can edit any swatch at any time by long pressing on the swatch. And there you can delete it or set current color, and that will just replace the color that you have with something else. Let's do foreground elements. I think the horizon could be somewhere on the lower third, and this could be just foreground elements happening on this ground plane. With every landscape piece, you have to decide where your viewer is. Basically give them a role. Who are they? How tall are they? Are they on the ground? Are they flying by? Your view to your world is not just some sort of like abstract camera dangling in the air. You are actively telling the story, and you are placing the viewer as a character in your world. Whether that's a conscious choice or not, but that's how they feel when they are in these places that you create. Hello, Selina. Thinking that maybe here there could be a building. Not quite sure where the edges are. I'm just going to block it in roughly first and then worry about the details. Or even perspective if I need to take it that far. Maybe I don't. Sometimes you can just get away with stuff. I want to have just like one thing, like maybe I can have some kind of like house extension just to create a little bit more interesting silhouette. I think that's pretty good. Since this is a base, I'm duplicating it just so that I can eliminate the woodboard transparency texture in the middle of the brush strokes, as I want to have more control over what I'm putting inside that space. I think this could be a lot brighter, maybe even this. It's kind of like figure out some kind of a wall area over here. And then see if I can also use that same logic for the area on the left. I want that color to be a little bit duller, so I am mixing it with the shadow color, kind of like jumping over that local color, and that is going to push that color back. When I made this color in the palette, I thought that this could be a rooftop color. It's looking very bright right now, so I might add a bit more texture to all of this. For any kind of building, these sort of blocky square brushes are really great, especially if you're doing concept design. It kind of forces you to make decisions with your shape design, but when you have a very soft edge brush, that's good for some kind of like rendering or creating mood in a nature setting. But when you're designing an environment, you really do need to make decisions. So if that's a weakness in your painting, then I recommend like just going into the source of your brush and selecting a shape that is like some kind of like a block square shape. And while it might feel like kind of uncomfortable at first, that one single change is going to make you make decisions when you are making different shapes on your canvas. I know that this might sound easy, but like the decision making is something that is pretty easy to avoid when you're painting. It's pretty easy to paint in a way where you're just creating soft gradients and smooshy lines in other areas of your piece, and then you can just continue working on a piece for a really long time while still actively avoiding decisions about what you're actually making. And it doesn't even matter what your subject is. Like, even if you're in a live drawing class, I know this firsthand, that you can just work and render on like different separate sections of the human body and still have completely like no idea what you're doing and how those pieces are going to connect. I think I'm gonna do like some kind of a tiny windmill here. Don't know if it's gonna be like a full-on like silo, but maybe it's just a small one. Going to make the silhouette a little bit more interesting. Is it leaning to the right? A little bit. When I look at the tiny thumbnail version on my screen, I just kind of like see a bigger picture than here in front of me because I'm so... I always complain that the iPad screen is not big enough, that when they do new iPad releases, that they really should increase the screen size, but for composition it's definitely big enough, maybe even too big. I'm gonna do this on its own separate layer. And actually on top of everything, because I wanna work on this element separately. I have done windmills so many times that there's kind of a routine that I have for it now. Instead of like making the square grid like this time, I'm gonna try something different and just do this kind of support beam structure. If there's a windmill engineer out there watching this, I'm sorry, I guess. I just thought it would be unique and different. Once you do 200 windmills, I think you're allowed to play with the shapes a little bit more. So I'm going to be using the rotate 45-degree buttons instead of doing them manually, because I want there to be 4. And this way I can make sure that I am hitting the exact same angles each time, making it symmetrical. So one more, 45, 45, and there. Now it's one single shape. Just to be sure, I'm gonna do a duplicate. And before I rotate this into place, I guess I need to have some kind of perspective to guide me. Do I need it? Well, I'm not gonna... If I need to fix something, then maybe. I'm gonna put it quite far away, especially on the left side. I'm not gonna do a top perspective at all. I'm not gonna do a 3-point perspective, just because of the feeling is so different with that, and it's not the kind of feeling that I don't want to create a sense of like this being a massive building. I want it to be more approachable, and for that, a 2-point perspective works way better for storytelling reasons. I think that's okay. I'm gonna keep that. I think it brings out interesting shapes to the silhouette of the building that is contrasting with the shape of the clouds there in the distance. So once that is done, I can get rid of my backup windmill blade frame. Put it in here, and then add the canvas behind it. Haven't quite decided on the color, but for now I'm using this color because I can actually see what I'm doing. Based on the direction of the sunlight, this would be either shining through the fabric, or it would be completely in shadow. Maybe the shadow cast by the pillar would be diffused shadow, as the fibers of the canvas are dissipating all of that light. It's still quite high contrast, which I don't like, so I'm gonna go into curves and then just bring down that light a little bit. It's not very Finnish scenery, despite it being a Finnish Independence Day, but I need a break from the dark winter here. I need some damn colors in my life. I'm not happy with either color, so I'm just mixing them. Now I'm pressing very lightly with the brush to blend the two colors together, and then I'm color picking to get the average of it. These sort of color mixes are very difficult to kind of pre-plan for, because now that I have this pretty saturated rooftop, when I add color from the opposite side of the color wheel next to it, the contrast of different hues, it can be so strong that it makes both hues look way more saturated than they would seem on the color palette by itself. I'm thinking of an element here, could be good to contrast with the light on the rooftop. So I'm starting from a very desaturated place. Again, I'm not worrying about the square blockiness of this brush. I think it's actually kind of cool way to enhance the style of this painting. So I'm going to just kind of like play to its strengths, the strong shape language, and then kind of use color blocking to create the atmosphere. So my main job here as an artist right now is to just make sure that the values and the colors that I am mixing for these color blocked areas are telling the story and kind of bringing out that mood of the environment. For hue variety, like of course it's not good to have just this like one big area behind everything, but we know that, so we can use the contrast as a compositioning tool, because this way it's giving pretty much like the maximum contrast to everything as we are working. But when we go in and add more variety to these areas, we have to make sure that these elements look like they are in different planes and giving depth to this scene. With the distant elements, you can also use kind of a texture to create an optical illusion of this kind of blending, depending on what really works for your piece, really. But in the distance, I think you can get away with like way more loose brush strokes, because that looseness also subconsciously communicates to your audience that this element is further away. So I shouldn't kind of like nitpick every single tiny detail. And it gives your painting this sense of ease. Maybe this is a personal thing, but I always think that like paintings that look like they were easy to paint are somehow very pleasant to look at. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like whenever I see a piece that looks like that must have been fun to paint, like that feeling is kind of like infectious, and that always makes me want to paint as well. Oh, this is supposed to be behind everything, so the playing is all wrong. I'm gonna put it... no. Do I hate anything more than accidental group making in Procreate? Probably not. There was a juicy, like very vibrant green in the palette over here, and I think those could be good for the foreground. I'm gonna just start with the biggest possible brushes here. select this. So I'm gonna select that and using it as a layer mask. So I don't have to worry about hitting other elements. But at the same time, I probably want this grass area to be kind of overlapping with the building later. So for structure, it makes sense to have this layer on top of everything. I think that's pretty good. I also want to preserve some of this texture in the grass because I don't want this whole lower half to be just full of details. I want to find interesting ways to clump that detail into groups. Also intentionally leaving those small edges between elements. Because I want every single layer of color to be visible in the end result. So I'm already actively working on enabling that. But if I just press too hard with this brush, it would completely cover everything, and I don't want that. I think this is really good as a shadow color. Maybe on some kind of a road over here. Maybe the road is too much to the corner of the painting. So maybe somewhere over here. I can still leave some of that green in. You know how on old country roads the grass is constantly in battle with the gravel and it's trying to grow over everything, especially in the middle. I think that is somehow very beautiful, so I want to have something like that. I'm painting with very loose hand to leave in some of this texture. And it's going to show those layers of paint. The shadow also could use a darker variant. I'm gonna try that here. I color picked the grass, and then I just found a different hue variation of it, and it's the same value, so I'm just layering over that same color with a different hue variation of that same tone, and it's going to add a little bit more richness to this grass area. And I'm gonna do the same thing for those distant brighter elements. I think the base is kind of already there, it's coming together. At this point I could try something crazy and take the hair blender. By the way, you can get the hair blender and all of the other blenders in the free blender set. And those are already available on my Gumroad. They don't cost anything. You can just put $0 to the price amount and then just press I want this and you can download these. I'm gonna go to the cloud layer. And then just tear apart some of these shapes, especially the ones in the middle. There's already this sort of like natural movement to the clouds, so I'm just going with that. Again, the intention of this is not to get away from that blocky look, but just to create that sense of contrasting textures. You see, I'm only putting in like 5 or 9 different brushstrokes here. And whenever I feel like it's not working, I am just undoing. It's not that important to do a lot of brushstrokes when you're painting, but it's important to do the right brushstrokes. And every single piece of like work that you put in, it's completely expendable if it doesn't help with the painting itself at all. So now I'm returning to the woodboard brush, as all of this is going to be painted with the same tool. I want to make sure that there is some extra room for a step, as all of the old houses, they are built quite high. And then a bigger window. I'm now not following that drawing guide at all. I am just freehanding this. Honestly, for the look that I want, I don't want to care about perspective that much. Okay, also thank you for the nice things that I'm reading in the chat. That's very, very kind of you. When you're doing details like this in a painting, I think an important question to help you with the choices that you make on like what kind of style you are painting, that are you doing a painting or are you drawing? If you're doing a painting, like don't try to put in objects and everything that you think from the world of symbols. Try to not just look your painting from further away, but also visualize it in simplified clumps and shape languages. Like, what do you need to create that impression that you are trying to tell through your design choices? And only paint that. It's much harder to simplify than it is to add details. Anybody can have endless amount of time to add details and end up with the exact same kind of a painting. But it takes a lot of skill to simplify and find the thing that you actually want to paint, the stuff that is important for the mood that you are creating. Those sort of decisions are way harder than details. For somebody who is new to painting or doesn't paint at all, like, those people are easy to impress with just details. But once you have painted for a while, you kind of want to do better. You want to evolve as an artist, and that includes not just doing what impresses others, but try to impress yourself and evolve your own way of expressing yourself through your paintings. I'm using the texture to create this sense of bounced light from the ground, but it's cool light, so I'm adding a little bit of saturation here to give more variety to the shadow sides, so that they aren't just like one single flat color, which would look quite boring. And on top, I am color picking that same hue and then doing a darker desaturated version. Create this very subtle gradient over here. I think these sort of things are really where the way that you paint has a great impact over the way that it ends up looking. Not just what shape of a house or rooftop or chimney you are doing, but the decisions on where to start your brushstroke, where to end it, how you make those decisions, and how you create texture with those decisions. Not just with the selection of like what kind of brush you are using. You could honestly do that with any brush, but thinking about how it's going to impact the painting as a whole. Like it's more than just zooming out, it's zooming out like mentally as well to focus on the bigger picture. When I knew that this woodboard brush would be in this live stream, and when I started thinking about like what kind of scenery could I do, I wasn't thinking about highly detailed geometric elements. I was thinking exactly like how could I, since like for me it was already locked that since I'm going through the different brushes in my Angry Mikko Oils brush set, I knew that I would be using this brush. So the best way to get the most out of this brush is to build a painting around that. And there are paintings where this would be like definitely not an ideal tool to use. So rather than making the painting process more difficult for myself, I thought that like, okay, I know what the character of this brush is, I can get that texture and I can also get those sculptural blocky shapes. Obviously, if I do something that has like this sort of like sculptural painterly quality to it, then I'm playing to the strengths of the brush and it can help with that impression in storytelling rather than actively fighting against it, which would just be a waste of my energy and time and would result in a worse looking painting, honestly. If you look at the brush size, I could go way smaller. But this impression is what I'm working for here. In fact, I'm gonna see if I can increase the canvas size even more. So I'm gonna go here. I'm pretty happy with the overall look already. How are we doing on time? 1 hour. That's pretty good, I think. Somebody's saying it's much easier to go broad and then gradually into detailing. Yes, I agree. That is true. But also, maybe consider if you need to go into detailing at all. Like, how simple can you make it? Sometimes that's a more interesting challenge. And as an art teacher, I would say that that's a harder skill to learn. I really like that sort of like subtle variety of hue. I don't know if you can even see it in this live stream compressed format, but like the stuff that I'm like slapping on right here, can you see those like very subtle hues in that light tone? I really like those when they work. Some of these kind of darker whites I could also use in the foreground. So I'm gonna go above everything and then try to find like a shadow color, like maybe even darker. Like, also, hello, bald. I'm probably saying that wrong. It sounded offensive. Now that I have the alpha lock on, I'm just gonna do a few dabs of color of light on just a few of these flowers. And hopefully that's enough to sell that that is white in shadow. For the trunk of that distant tree, I'm just gonna try to see if only desaturated green could work instead of using brown. I think this already looks brown enough. I'm adding a subtle sheet of gray over this tree, just to make that color contrast between the tree and the building in front of it even stronger. And the reason why I need that saturation contrast there is to just like bring a distance between those two. And here, having that very desaturated base to start from, like that makes it possible. So, hello, Maria. Okay. Let's add more kind of flowers and foliage in the foreground. Let's just make this a little bit more vibrant environment. I think I could start from the corner here, because it looks like there should be some kind of like a bigger plant in the corner. And maybe here as well, kind of like on both sides of this space. And then for shape variety, different shapes on these corners. So almost every corner has something. It's going to do something over here as well. It's going to be more round. This is honestly the most focused work that I've been doing all week. I just feel like I've been multitasking everything all week, and always in the back of my mind there has been this sort of like crazy panic about if somebody emails me about a brush set that they bought, that like am I able to like offer customer service? Because remember that for my Gumroad store, like I am the entire staff. Like if you send, for example, some kind of question that I need to answer or something through email, I'm only one person like reading through all those emails, and I need to sometimes be somewhere else. I might be walking a dog, or worst of all, I could be sleeping, and then I will be unreachable for seven hours if I'm lucky. Lucky with the sleep, I mean. And throughout all that, I'm always wondering that, like, if somebody has something important that they need help with, like, I'm just not gonna be there. And of course, I understand, like, with any kind of like tech stuff, like whenever you have a problem that needs to be solved, it's incredibly frustrating. So I fully get how that could be incredibly frustrating. And when you're having a situation like that, of course you're not thinking that, like, it might be nighttime there. Vivi is causing drama. I'm sorry, I can't help it. She's a corgi. Her main job in life is to cause drama. I know it might sound serious, but honestly, what I think happened is because I heard the door, and it might be just that my boyfriend left outside to take out the trash or something, and she sounds like the entire world is ending, and here I am just painting and not paying attention to her urgent needs. The thing that I feel is a little bit of, just slightly suspicious, is that when I leave and I go and take out the trash or something, and when I return, like, there's just no drama whatsoever, because I'm the boring one. I'm the maintenance guy that makes sure that her, like, basic life survival stuff and exercise is happening. And then my boyfriend gets to be the fun one. Because normally when he returns from work, the dog has already been walked. So she has all this, like, playtime energy. I'm gonna hate myself for doing this, but I always do this to myself, is that I add these complex shapes to rooftops, and then I will be absolutely dying trying to make sense of it. I feel like the building is, like, not quite, like, mask enough, so I'm adding some pink flowers. By the way, like, this is a cheat code that you can use when you're working with a palette. So here I have one of the lighter tones right here. Now if I want to do a pink tone that fits with this color palette, I'm just choosing this as a light color as a starting point, because it's roughly around the same saturation range. Now I'm just pulling it towards red, and then here I will probably already be quite close to a color that I can use that looks like it's from the same painting, but fits with the other colors that are already there. Can you see how it just, like, naturally sinks in to the overall look? I think here at the corner I needed just like an accent color to differentiate between the greens and the edge of the building and the edge of this meadow, since I don't want there to be a strict line. I want the meadow to be kind of like wild playground for fun brushstrokes. Grouping all of these small brush strokes to almost paint an invisible line. It's not really a line, but it feels like a line. I think that dead shapes makes just enough sense for me to keep it from a distance, but if you zoom in, it's just like, ooh, maybe don't look too closely. I've already taught the viewer what these colors mean, so that's why in the distance I can just use them as symbols, and when we zoom out, they kind of look like houses, don't they? Wood brush is definitely one of my favorites, I see in the chat. I like the kind of like control, but at the same time texture. Sometimes like I know that this balance is different for everybody, but for me like it's just enough that if I want, I can do a very detailed painting with this brush, but at the same time when I'm painting, if I feel like I want to lean into the more expressive, I feel like this brush lets me. So that's what I like about it. Me saying this is not gonna sell any process, but honestly, if you want to have like the most control that you can possibly have, then every painting application has the default round brush. That is honestly like, when I talk about character in a brush and different profiles, the default round brush has the most neutral profile. It also has the easiest to control texture, so it has the lowest character. But whenever you start changing the profile by adding a little bit of grit and texture to it, the more character you add to a brush, and then I think it's good to work with that character rather than battling against the brush that you have chosen for your painting. And to learn how to use it, I also recommend like just sticking with the brush that you already have chosen rather than making it even more complicated to learn how to use that brush by switching tools all the time. Especially if you're working like with a tool like this, where that is like clearly designed so that you can paint the whole painting with it. But if you're working with like a specialized tool, I've shown that I have, for example, a tool for doing brick or rock, then like that really is only like a single-use tool, and it always leaves the same kind of look after it. So with those, I think it's always worth considering, like, should I just be doing this by hand the way that I do it rather than use like a specialized tool? Because you can paint everything with one brush. It's just about doing it in a way that fits your painting. When I grow up, I want to be like Mikko. Please, you don't know what you're saying. You should see how messy this workroom is. You definitely don't want to be like me. When I grow up, I want to be the kind of person who can go on a video shoot and have a proper checklist. It would make my life so much easier. I'm so disorganized and forgetful that it's not even remotely cute or funny. That track was like perfect for this painting, and now we have rain, which is not. I'm intentionally repainting some of these blocks because I don't want this element to look completely different and out of place with the rest of the painting. So I'm using it almost as a guide to trace over my own painting, the style of the rest of the painting. And yes, I did say trace. There's nothing wrong with tracing, by the way. If you're not stealing stuff, like, you can trace your own sketch. I trace my own sketches all the time if I do, for example, a traditional piece or part of the process as a traditional piece. I can start the planning digitally and I will trace over it. I'm not gonna do the same drawing twice just to have said that I didn't trace anything. I don't think there's anything to be gained for that, for me, who is more interested in getting the idea across. Where tracing doesn't help you is if you're doing it that while learning. Like if you're trying to learn anatomy, just tracing the anatomy is not going to help you get any better, so it's completely time wasted in my opinion. Okay, I think it looks way more like part of this painting. This was where I started and this is where I ended up. It just like has the same texture to it. I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna do the hue variety trick for this meadow, so I'm gonna duplicate it and then go into hue and saturation and then just slightly shift the hue. And then add mask to it, invert the mask to black, and then on white I'm going to be painting on this. You can see that it does a slight hue variety to everything. And this is one more way to especially make the foreground elements have more rich and interesting colors. And you can color pick this and then paint over that as well. Then you have just like doubled the amount of hue variety that you have in your use. And now I'm going to merge that. Instead of painting over these areas completely, I'm lightly brushing, letting that previous layer of color to peek through those small gaps. You see that if I press lightly, then I will have the previous layers of color visible between those gaps. Growing up is overrated anyways. Yes, I agree. And that color trick that I just showed for the meadow, like when you're doing those sort of like Studio Ghibli like chipped paint surfaces on old buildings like this, you can use that there as well. In fact, I'm gonna do it on this painting right now. So I'm gonna take this wall layer Actually, I'm gonna just drop it on this. So I'm gonna take this layer, I'm gonna invert it so that you can see what I'm talking about. This layer, I am going into hue and saturation, making a darker, less saturated version, and then maybe a redder version of it. And for this layer, I'm adding a black layer mask. And then I'm painting it visible. I've noticed that the lower half in these sorts of houses is always kind of like radiating for whatever reason. Like it could be that paint gets born in certain order, or water dripping down is causing the surface paint to damage with it. All sorts of things like that can have an impact on the color of your building. Just when you see these sort of like interesting elements in real world, it's important to make a mental note of it, because later when you're painting, like you can pull from those sorts of memories. So this is the variety that we just added. I'm gonna do some more here. I just saw the clock and it's 1 hour 30 minutes. I'm pretty happy with myself how fast I've been going here. I think here there could be like an element of blue. I locked that layer and now I'm just lightly brushing over it, keeping that original green in there, and now it just has an element of blue that it's mixing with. Same for here. On top of this saturation perspective, bringing elements forward, now we also have hue perspective, which is pushing those cool tones further into the distance. Yes, all of this stuff could be done with just a brick brush. But I think this is a bit more organic way to achieve that same look. So right now I'm going into freeform transform, scale this all the way down, and then just using the corners of this building to put everything in place. So I'm grabbing a hold of this and pulling it into here. Just putting the roof in its place. I think that's good enough. Now I'm erasing it from these overlapping elements because I don't want there to be brickwork over everything. You can also like break apart some of those copies so that it looks more organic by just tapping this eraser over those elements. Now that I have this set of bricks over everything, I can go behind that layer. I'm gonna just set it here in place. And on a new layer, I am grabbing the color of the rooftop and then just finding a variant of it. So it's almost the same, but not quite. Could be still a little bit more red. I think that's good. And now I am following the lines and then giving the illusion that some of the bricks have slightly different hue variety in there. Just following the same shapes. It's also giving me a perspective guide on where to do this. You can be loose, just as long as most of the lines are respecting the direction of the bricks here. Going to adjust the opacity of this slightly and then do a new layer where I can do the same thing over again. This time in 100% opacity. Now it's the same color, but it's still giving variety because it's a stronger mix. I think these bricks on the top of the rooftop are a little bit too high contrast, so I'm alpha locking that. I'm grabbing the rooftop color and then lightly brushing over these bricks that are closer to the edge, because there, when it comes to the composition, the edge and the geometric shape of that rooftop is way more important than these like individual bricks. They are kind of nonsense in the bigger scheme of things. So I'm fading the contrast, especially on the tiles that are further away. They could also bring down the opacity of this layer a little bit. Because it's supposed to be a texture, not some kind of like main composition element. I really have to be going soon so that my boyfriend isn't all alone on Independence Day. We have handshakes to watch. And I want to see them too. US has your like Met Gala and Fashion Week. In Finland we have this. The most important thing is that what anybody is going to wear. So it's just that for several hours. In the Independence Day party, you can also dress very conservatively, so you don't have to put like, you have to dress up, but you don't have to stand out. It's in no way a requirement. This is Finland after all, like standing out is probably like the worst thing a Finn can do. I'm gonna read the chat real quick and zoom out a little bit. I'm slightly worried that I am now scumbling very high contrast elements and like just trying to crunch through. I mean, it looks like a painting already, doesn't it? I'm always amazed at the effect of sharp edges like you just did on the left edge of the main building. Oh, okay. Maybe I missed that. Brush on the corner of the house where the brush is half shadow, half light. The shapes are so nice and expressive. Okay. I think it's just about kind of like squinting at the painting all of the time when you're painting and not getting too like caught up on details. That one of those doors is definitely like levitating in the air, so I need to fix that. If you're familiar with my paintings from before, the one tip that I can say about stairs is don't do them. And if you accidentally have stairs in your painting, honestly, it's just like reconsider your choices in life and where you went wrong to let this happen to yourself, and just start over. Like, I don't care if you have to move to a new place, like just start over, and maybe next time you won't be painting stairs. Like, don't become that person. There are more important things that you can do in life than waste your entire goddamn life trying to get the perspective of stairs correct. Unless that is like the entire point of your painting. When it comes to adding stairs, consider this is going to be a time investment. Maybe not a worthwhile time investment. Honestly, these stairs look super hazardous. It's like it ends immediately on the left, so you have to walk in a completely straight line, not to fall off them when you exit the building. It's just, I'm not responsible for any accidents that might happen in this place. Roboto Chan is saying good advice in the chat. Hi, Spicer 108. Be yourself. You might be surprised what unique qualities you have. Yes, definitely. And when it comes to painting, once you paint long enough, you notice that like you like certain things more. Like maybe you don't like windmills as much as I do. Maybe you like painting stairs. Then in those situations, you should lean into that. Maybe you love painting stairs and then you become like the best stairs painter in the world. I will never become that because I don't care about that line of work whatsoever. So you can have it. I'm leaving it up to you. Maybe I should end around 2 hours. And then I can go and walk Vivi. Here I want to paint some sky holes too. I'm kind of painting everywhere now, all at once. Just trying to see wherever I can improve the painting. I know it's not at all like it, and it's not surrounded by cliffs, but something about this building reminds me of the building that you can buy in Breath of the Wild, Link's house. I think it's just like one continuous rooftop and then it has like a raised section, but maybe it's just the colors are somewhat similar. I'm kind of doing a lower contrast impression of that brickwork here, because this is not as important. I just want to communicate that it's the same type of rooftop here in the distance. My youngest just said the same thing about Breath of the Wild like 2 minutes ago. I think it would be a fun challenge to like go anywhere on that map and just paint that. Does it have trees and bushes next to it? I'm not quite sure. If I remember correctly, I think there was some kind of fence in front of it too. I'm adding a little bit more sky holes here, just to make sure that the silhouette kind of varies all over. I just did this long shape design lecture on the membership. And I think there I went through like pretty much everything that goes into shape design. If you haven't seen that yet and you're a member, I highly recommend watching that sometimes when you are painting. It's divided into sections, so you can just watch one section at a time and maybe do the assignment. It also has art assignments attached to it. And I did the art assignments myself, so you can see what they look like in practice. But in that talk, I really put everything that I know about shape design into just one single art lecture. I went into my teaching slides and just pulled in all the data and like compiled this like one super long talk. It's an hour-long video, but you don't have to watch it all at once, of course. Before I end the live stream, if you haven't done so yet, please know that those blenders that I used for breaking apart those clouds, they are free and available on Gumroad. But if you buy the Angry Mikko oil set, where I use this woodboard brush for this entire painting, they are also included in there, like in the beginning here. And you can identify the blenders from that droplet emoji with them. Okay, I'm just gonna go on top layer and then just sprinkle small details everywhere. How much do I have time? 6 minutes. Okay. Let's get this done. I'm lightly brushing all of these brush strokes together so that here in the corner all of these details turn into this just one single mush far out in the distance. I love this part of the process when you can paint on everything and you don't have to worry about layers anymore. I don't think there is going to be that much cleanup needed for this painting because it looks pretty much done. It's the kind of painting that the more that you think that you're finishing it, you're actually just like ending up turning it into the same painting as everything else. So all of the cool stuff happens in those like spontaneous brushstrokes as you're working on it. One thing that I was thinking about Breath of the Wild is that just taking like any location and turning it into like a different variation of itself, or just taking a screenshot and using those colors or shapes and turning it into something else, I think could be cool, because I really liked the tone of that entire game. I was thinking about that right before this live stream, so maybe that is why subconsciously like I got so close to the Link's house look. Honestly, I think if I keep working on this way longer, I'm just going to ruin it. So I'm just gonna call it here. That's the painting. I'm really happy with the way that it looks, honestly. I don't know, I think that's cool. Can I move myself a little bit here? Okay. Thank you for joining this stream. I'm gonna go and enjoy the Independence Day here. If you're a Finn and you're watching this, happy Independence Day. If you haven't done so yet, please go and get the Angry Mikko Oils brush set. And in the next live stream, I'm gonna be going into Coal Mountains, which is a really versatile and it's a perfect brush for concept sketching. So I think like doing some kind of like a concept art challenge for the next live stream in this stream series could be cool. I am going to be putting this palette in as part of the brush set. So anybody who has like bought it already, few days from now, if you go into the Gumroad library, this will be like a downloadable file, and I will be slowly adding more and more palettes, and in the end all of these live stream palettes will be downloadable for everybody who already bought the set. So it's not something like you don't have to sign up anywhere, you already have it in your Gumroad library. Okay, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I'm always doing these movements so I know when to cut the stream.